Michele here, and you're listening to episode number 56, Willpower Won't Work. Welcome to the Cut the Stress show, formerly the I Cut the Mustard show, where you'll learn how to stop stressing, stop stress eating, and finally create the body that you can enjoy forever. If you're ready to lighten up, pun intended, then you're in the right place, because you shouldn't have to hate creating the body that you love. So I recently started coaching a new client, and in our first session, I said, okay, I've got to share with you how it works around here. And the biggest rule is, number one, we don't do what we don't want to do. And number two, we don't use willpower. And she kind of gave me this funny look, like, what are you even talking about? So I want to explain that concept to you on this podcast today, because I feel like it's one that's a little contradictory to a lot of people and what you think is required to make action happen in your life. But first, I want to share a little bit about my journey and why I came to believe that willpower doesn't work. I remember being so frustrated whenever I found the plant-based diet. Again, I've said this many times, but I read all of the success stories and I thought, yes, this is the golden ticket. This is going to solve all of my problems. This is going to fix my digestion. And I'm just going to be poof and just a magical, so much better person, and it made such a big difference in my life and healed so many things. And I'm still such a huge fan of the plant-based diet. But I remember just getting so frustrated because I kept reading these success stories, and they're like, yeah, if you just eat all good plants and you stop eating processed foods and sugar and salt and oil, then your taste buds will adjust and you just won't be addicted anymore. Like, the reason that you're overeating, the reason that you're having trouble giving up those foods is because they're addictive, and all you've got to do is stop eating them for a while, and then those addictions will go away. Your cravings will go away. Problem solved. But again, I was so frustrated because, yeah, that sounds great. Awesome. All I have to do is stop for a while and then those cravings go away. But my big question was, how do I get myself to stop eating all those delicious foods? Like, how do I find the motivation to keep moving long enough to stop craving those foods? And I kept reading a bunch of plant-based books, but I just couldn't really find a good answer. A lot of people would just say, yeah, you just got to do it, or just use willpower. Or a lot of the stories were just people who were right at the brink. They were on their breaking point. Like, I've just had 5 heart surgeries, or I'm 400 pounds and I have diabetes and all these million medications. And I found this diet. So then I just jumped in both feet because it was dire times, right? So there seemed to me to be people who had a huge motivation because they were at the breaking point and it's like do or die moment. But for me, it just didn't seem as urgent because I had solved most of my problems, and it's just an inconvenience to have brain fog or other things going on in my life whenever I eat sugar, right? It wasn't as big of a motivation to move forward. And even some of us are at that breaking point, but for some reason, it still just isn't motivating enough. Our health issues or the threat of health issues still just isn't quite motivating enough to get us to give up those addictive foods or things that we don't want to eat, or change our habits in a way that's really going to serve us in the long run and be healthy for us. So I get frustrated with the people whenever they say, yeah, just use willpower, or you've just got to grit your teeth and do it, because I tried that many, many times and I just failed every time. And then I felt like there's something wrong with me, right? I just don't have enough willpower. I just must not be as strong as those other people who can do it. And since I don't have enough willpower, I guess I'm stuck and I just can't make this work. But the good news is that you don't need willpower. And here's why. Whenever you use willpower, you're like trying to make yourself do stuff. So I remember one time just like a little analogy with a donkey, right? They talk about you can grab the donkey and you can pull, try to make them do what you want them to do, or and that doesn't work, because they're very stubborn animals, or you can like show them a piece of sugar cane or something and give them something motivational and they'll come, right? So this is how it is in our own lives, that we are those stubborn donkeys, right? There's many things. We don't want to be told what to do. We don't want to have other people make us do things. And we don't want to feel like we're making ourselves do things, right? We don't even like to listen to ourselves. And we don't like it when we make us do what we're supposed to do, what we want us to do. I don't know if that's making sense, but I find that whenever I'm trying to shove myself into it and make myself do it, then there's a lot of rebellion going on, and I find ways to get back at myself, because that makes a lot of sense, right? So let's drop that. Let's drop the willpower, because it just isn't going to work long term. The longest I've ever had it work is 4 days. Like, ooh, I was really gritting my teeth, holding back for 4 days. And then I just give up and I eat a ton of stuff. So instead of willpower, let's find the fun, like I said in my framework, to be freed from stress and stress eating. We need to find the fun. We need to make it fun and exciting, feel internally motivated to move in the right direction rather than trying to force us into it. Because here's the difference. Let's just think of a time maybe growing up or at work or even in your home whenever you feel like someone's making you do something that you don't want to do. So let's take work, for example. You've got a project and you feel like you've got to do it. Your boss is making you do this thing, but you're not particularly excited about it. So you go into that project, just like I mentioned last episode about my finances, right? I didn't want to do my finances, so I go into it completely resistance. I'm hating life. I'm procrastinating an hour before I even get started. And then whenever I do the job, I'm not doing the job well, right? I'm just trying to get the job done so I can leave. Or another example that I can think of is whenever I was in college, and you can tell the people who are there just to get the degree because their moms told them to come, or that's what they're supposed to do. Then they just go through the motions. They get the bare minimum. They're not really engaged in class. They're just there to get the paper, right? And they're more interested in partying and doing other things. Versus the members of the class who are maybe coming back for a second degree, or who have never got a college degree. Like there was several older people in my college class, and I just felt like they were so more dedicated and focused because they'd been out there in the real world and they knew why they were there at college now, and they knew what value it had, and maybe they were paying their own way through college. And there were younger people who had this attitude as well, but you can tell the difference between the people who were just there because they were supposed to be there versus the people who wanted to be there and they had drive and they had a real reason behind it. And the same is true with all of our health goals, whether it be eating healthy, losing weight, exercising, whatever it is. If we make ourselves do it and we go into it with that mindset, then it's going to be subpar work, right? And number one, it's going to be just so hard to get ourselves there. It's not going to be very sustainable. And then when we get there, you're spending a lot of energy just fighting yourself to stay there. And then you're not putting the same effort into your performance. So just like I mentioned in the last episode about my financial reconciliation time that I do each month, normally I go in with frustration. It takes me a long time to get started, and then I just hate every minute. I'm exhausted by the end. But when I was able to change it and say, you know what, I want to be here. I want to look through these finances because I want to take good care of my family. And then I was able to find the fun and be excited about it. Then I blew through it. I just breezed through. I was able to do a better job. I was focused on what I was doing and I got way more out of it. And by the end, I was energized rather than drained from that experience. So it's going to be a totally different experience. Even those subtle things that you don't even notice or take for granted, those subtle nuances are going to make all the difference. So I just want to give you one more example, and that is my personal experience with overeating and trying to overcome that. In the past, I tried to use willpower. I would give myself some rules, like I'm only going to eat 3 times a day. I'm only going to eat these kinds of food. I'm not going to snack after dinner. And then I would go throughout my day. And when I was in the kitchen, this is what my brain's doing. It's like, oh, look, there's an apple over there. Don't you want that apple? And you know what? Actually, that apple's not that great, but I think there might be some chocolate chips somewhere that I bought. Remember those chocolate chips that I bought 2 weeks ago? They're in the back of the freezer. Remember that? And but don't eat those. Don't eat that. So it's a constant fight with myself where I'm like thinking of things and then I'm like, oh yeah, remember how I'm not going to do that right now. Focus. I'm not snacking right now. And then I'll be like preparing dinner and I'm just popping things in my mouth all the time. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to put that in my mouth. And maybe I spit it back out in the trash or something, but it's like a constant fight. And there's this chitter chatter going in my head all the time because I'm trying to make myself do it. Versus whenever I get in the right frame of mind where I'm freed from stress and stress eating, and whenever I do it because I want to, my whole outlook changes and I'm not using willpower. I'm doing it because I genuinely want to. And instead in my brain, it's saying, and well, number one, if I'm really in my groove, I'm not even thinking about food. And whenever I pop something in my mouth, it's like, oh, weird that I did that out of habit, but it feels weird in there. Or I see the chocolate chips in there, but I just don't even think about them. I don't even look at them. Or some other instances might be that I am a little bit tempted. I do have an urge and I'm like, you know what? I just want to have a big bowl of cereal or a big bowl of popcorn and sit and watch the movie. And then I say something else to myself like, yeah, you do want that, but it's not really going to give you the result that you want. Or that if you get that, then you're going to be disappointed in yourself later. So I'm just able to remind myself gently that, oh yeah, that's not really what I want. And then I move on to something else. So it's a totally different experience. So because of those reasons, I tell people, don't use willpower. Willpower doesn't work, right? And whenever you find yourself using willpower, it's because you're resisting and you're not looking inside yourself and working with yourself to make that change happen. And I find this really, really obvious in my children. I'll try to make them do something that they don't want to do. And then I can grab their arm and they're kicking and screaming, right? And we have a terrible experience. Or I can sit down and if I take a couple extra minutes to explain to them what we're doing and why we're doing it and that I love them and kind of work with them, then they come willingly and we have a much better experience. So I can't think of a time when willpower really is helpful, but if you can think of one, then shoot it my way. I would love to hear it. Just be the devil's advocate, send it my way because I love to change my mind if it's not the right thing. But also, yeah, if you are ready to really take this into action, if it's still confusing for you and you're just ready to have someone walk with you by the hand and help you come to that place where you want to do it, where you're motivated and excited about making the changes that you want to happen in your life, then go ahead and check out the show notes and find the link to my stress freedom program where you can fill out the application and we can chat about working together because I would love to help you with this. I love it. It's so fun. And I will see you next week. Are you ready to lose weight, take control of food, and create the body and life of your dreams? Then it's time to check out my Stress Freedom Program. In this 12-week program, you'll find the confidence, tools, and support you need to finally get the results you've been looking for. Check it out at coaching.michellevilsek.com.